Hey everyone, I'm Rob Flattery from the Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design, also known as RMCAD. Today we're going to show you how to create your own title graphic, also known as a lower third, using Adobe After Effects. This fun tutorial is being made on our Wondering Pixel. This workshop on wheels is dedicated to inspiring young creatives through art and design by scheduling visits to schools and events. In this series of online workshops, the Pixel shows artists just like you the fun, simple way of creating compelling content. So come on in. So lower thirds are graphics on the screen to show you, usually a character or a location. Today, Chris Daly from our marketing department is going to show you how to use Adobe After Effects to make lower third title sequences.
So as Robin mentioned, lower thirds are used to establish locations or characters in your videos. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do is go to Composition, New Composition, and then we want to label this Main, because we always want to stay organized when we edit. And then we want to look at our dimensions here. So 1920 by 1080, that looks fine. We don't have to worry about frame rate for this. Duration, 10 seconds, that looks good to me. Background color, you can change that to whatever you want. We're going to leave it to gray for this tutorial. Then we're going to click OK. Now we're zoomed in a little bit here, so we're going to go to Fit. Perfect. Now the first thing we want to do is make our lives a little bit easier. So we're going to go to here, click this little icon, and then enable the title action safe. Okay. Now this is important because these lines are actually things that we can reference in our edit. Now as you can imagine, a lower third is on the lower third side of the screen. So typically they arrive, or they're here in the bottom left side, and then they animate out. So that's what we're going to do today. And then another thing, if you want to use this for an edit like this, or another edit, is enable rulers. And that allows you to put lines wherever you want on your screen. So these are super helpful as well. I use these all the time. The first thing I tell people whenever they want to animate is to envision how that animation is going to play out. And the best way to do it, from what I've learned, is to go analog, meaning draw it out, envision where you want your animation to go. That way you won't get lost or overwhelmed with the amount of effects and things that are in After Effects. So I drew mine out. I'm not going to show it because I'm not the best at drawing, but you're going to have to just trust me on it. It's a square that shows up with an icon, and then there will be two bars that go across that to reveal the name. So what we're going to do now is we're going to zoom in and get started. I'm going to use my mouse wheel so we can better see where we're editing. And then I'm going to click on my pen tool here. I'm going to click right here, hold shift, click up here. Awesome. And then right here, we're looking at the stroke. And we could change this depending on how thin or wide we want it to be. We want this to be almost like a square. So this looks pretty good right here. And what we're going to do is label this dark blue square. Then we're going to add trim paths, which will help us animate the square. So what we're going to do now is create keyframes to reveal our animation. Keyframes are important because you're going to use them for anything that you do in animating. It could be rotation, scale, position. I mean, you can keyframe effects. There's a lot of different ways you could use keyframes. I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to go about 15 frames in, and I'm going to click another keyframe. Now nothing's changed yet because we haven't changed the value, but when we bring this down to 0, it goes away. And then when I click, it animates in. That looks pretty cool, right? But I think we can make it a little bit cooler. This animation seems a little flat. So what we want to do is highlight both keyframes, right-click on it, and then go to Easy Ease. What Easy Ease does is it smooths out the animation. So it's a little bit more smooth. Now this looks a little bit better, but I think there's one more tweak we can make to make it even that much better. So I'm going to click on my last keyframe here, then I'm going to go to my graph editor, and then here you see this nice curve, and this curve is from the Easy Ease. So you see here how it shows up. What I want to do is click on this little handle right here, and I want to drag it over to the left as far as I can. So what that's doing right now is you see a pretty steep curve right here, then a gradual taper off. And what that's going to do in our animation is going to start fast and then slowly and gradually finish. There we go. That's pretty smooth. I like that. So what we want to do next is duplicate, and we want to call this light blue square. Perfect. Now in order to see our keyframes, we want to highlight our layers and click U. And then what we're going to do is actually offset these keyframes by about 3 frames. And I'm referencing this time code right here, about 3 frames. And then we want to get our light blue. So I have a color already picked out, so I'm going to just find it. And then go up to the stroke, put in the color code. If you don't have a color code, you could change it to whatever you want, but I know the color that I want. So I'm going to go here. Look at that. That's looking good. All right, so I bet you can guess what we're going to do again. Duplicate it one more time. Press U. All right, bring it up to about 3 keyframes. And then we're going to change this color to white. And as I mentioned earlier, we're actually going to put an icon in this as well. So now we have the smooth animation. This looks pretty nice. All right, but now we need to get an icon and put it in there. Now at RMCAD, we have our piece of artwork on the campus called the dome. So we have a little icon for the dome. I just dragged it in here. I'm going to bring it in. It's pretty big, right? So we need to shrink that down. So I'm going to click S on my keyboard. I'm going to bring down the scale here. Then I'm just going to click on the layer, drag it over. Still a little too big. So I'm going to shrink it a little bit more. That's looking good. And then now I'm just using my arrow keys to position it where I want it to be. Okay, now, right now, it's not doing anything, right? We want it to reveal. So what we're going to do is alpha matte. Whenever you use alpha mattes, you're asking After Effects to either show or hide a layer that's above. So right here, let me relabel this real quick. White square. Okay, so if I were to alpha matte, the white square is not going to show, but it's going to show as a white icon because it's taking the information from the white square and putting it only in the dome. Whereas if we did the opposite, it would show all of the white besides the actual icon, and then it would reveal as a blue. Now that looks pretty cool, but I want to teach you guys something that's a little bit more practical. So we're going to change that back to normal, turn this back on, and what we're going to do actually is duplicate our white square. Perfect. And we're going to bring this above. So here, now we have our white square, our dome, and our first white square. The first white square, we'll just go in order. We're going to alpha invert it, and then what we're going to do now is we're going to alpha matte the icon to the white square here. So what that does is when I click here, it'll actually animate the icon in as its original color. Okay? And we can change this color to whatever we want. We're not focusing this tutorial on that, but if you wanted to do that, you can go to your effects and presets and select fill. We're just going to leave it at black for this. But right there, now we have our nice animated square. So now we're going to click on everything here, Command A, and then we're going to pre-comp it and just label this square. Cool, we're set. So now we have this nice square. Now it's time to create our animated lines going out. So what I'm going to do is select my pen tool here, click right around here, click right around there. Now this is a little too big, so we're going to have to shrink this down. And I actually want to change this to the dark blue that we had before. So I'm going to get that color, and I'm going to change this to that dark blue. We're going to bring this below the square as well. Bring this up. I think that's still a little too thick. It doesn't have to be perfectly like 50-50. I actually prefer to have the name a little bit bigger because it's more prominent than the title. I'm going to zoom in. Okay, that looks like it's lined up. Perfect. Cool. And so, same as before, we're going to animate this line. So we're going to go to Add Trim Paths, and I'm looking here. Okay, so right around here is probably when I want to start animating. So maybe like right here. And as you see, it's the same process, but we're just doing it another direction. And we're going to do the same thing with the keyframes. Little easy ease action. Go back to my graph editor. And then here, so this looks nice. I think there's a little bit of a delay between the first animation and the second one right here. So I'm actually going to bring these over. I like that. I think it'd be a little bit better. Oh, well, nope. So there's just a lot of tinkering you have to do, as you see, but you know, I like the pacing of this. This looks good here. Well, first we want to label this, so we'll call this top dark blue. Okay. Next, we want to duplicate that, and we will relabel this light blue. Let me get my little color code. We're going to change this color, and then we're going to look at our keyframes. And I think doing another offset by like 3 frames is going to be helpful. I think that'll look nice. Yeah, that looks good. Right on. Cool. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to create our bottom line. So we're going to duplicate this, and we'll just call this bottom line. And we have 2 lines up here up top, but we're only going to have 1 line for the bottom. Let me just get my color. And we're going to shrink this guy down so we could have him fit. We'll bring him below here. Awesome. This is looking good. So I'm going to offset this as well. Nice. This is looking good. So we'll unselect we'll hide our bottom line right now, and we're going to add in some text. So right here, we're going to go John Smith. Switch it to bold. And typically as well, another way to kind of maximize your workflow is to have the text written out first. I didn't have a specific name in mind, and this is fairly short, so it's fine, and it could fit in there. But if you have a really long name or someone with maybe a hyphenated last name that's a little longer than most, then you might want to actually draw out your name first and then animate your shapes after. It's just something to keep in mind. But this name fits out perfectly. And what we're going to do here is do what we did to reveal our icon. So we're going to bring John Smith right here, and we're going to duplicate our top light blue layer. We're going to bring the second one up top. With the bottom one, we're going to do an alpha invert, and then with the name, we're going to do an alpha matte. And right now it's showing through as the dark text, and if this is something you wanted to do, you totally could, but I don't like that contrast there, and I like it I like this example where the name is in white, so I'm going to select that on. Perfect, that looks good. And then for the bottom, we're going to do the same. So we will duplicate John Smith's name, bring him down here, and we're going to say John is a student. Go to light. And I'm adjusting everything, everything's customizable here as you're seeing, but awesome. Now we want to do the same thing here, duplicate that bottom line, alpha invert, alpha matte. Nice. Okay, cool. So now what we want to do is just have our stuff a little bit better organized. We had pre-comped our square, but we need to pre-comp our other lines. When you pre-comp something, you're grouping it all together. There's many more layers to it, but no pun intended, but there's pre-comping is really going to help you organize your content. So I'm going to just say top line. Then I'm going to do bottom line. And we could even change the colors of each layer. So one last thing we want to do with our animation here is we want to animate the text. So I think that would be pretty cool too. So in order to do that, we're going to look at our keyframes, understand when things are showing up, and we're going to keyframe our text. So we're going to go here, we'll do the finish, and we'll bring this back. And because this is already alpha matted to these lines, it's already hidden. So we've already saved ourselves the work there. I'm going to do the same process as before. So right here, it looks like the name is coming in at the exact same time. We want to offset it just a little bit. It's going to look a little cleaner, I think. There we go. And this is, you know, maybe like 4 frames or so. That's looking good. So when we go back here, it comes in. So let's do the same with the top line. Oops. There we go. So we're going to go here, select position, position. Oops. We're going to drag this over, add in our easy ease, drag that over. Wonderful. So when we look at it, oh, that looks cool. And we can even offset this a little bit more. You can really customize it as much as you want. And within that, this is what we have. Cool. So now let's export. So as I mentioned before, our composition background color is really only there to help us see what we're editing. But when we click this guy, the toggle transparency grid, this is on a transparent background. But we have to make sure we export it as a transparent background, because if we don't, when you put this exported layer onto video, it'll show up as black with this text on it, and that's not what we want. So we have to make sure we export it correctly. So what we want to do is go to Composition, Add to Render Queue, click for channels, RGB plus alpha. That's the key, okay? And click OK. Everything else looks fine. And then pick the location where you want to send it. And it's as easy as that.
We have the project file on hand for you to download right now. Check out the link on our website or in the YouTube description to rewatch and follow along. Thanks for watching.